China sends 2 aircraft carriers into Pacific. Japan responds with missile power. An unusual kind of tension is brewing in Northeast Asia. In a first, China deployed its Liaoning and Shandong aircraft carriers to the Pacific, generating fresh friction with Japan. The Chinese carriers sailed close to the island of Iwo Jima, a strategically important base of the Japan Self-Defense Forces, JSDF, situated around 1,200 kilometers from Tokyo and 1,300 kilometers from the U.S. facilities located on Guam. While the East China Sea has borne witness to similar activities in the past, China's first foray beyond these waters to the east of the Ryukyu Island chain is symbolic. It signifies the capability of the PLA Navy to cover the second island chain, which includes Guam and the southern Ryukyu Islands, situated near Taiwan. Tensions escalated further with an aerial skirmish between a Chinese and Japanese aircraft above Japan's exclusive economic zone. This latest flare-up may be a sign of dangers that lie ahead in this theater. The new tensions have followed a major demonstration of military power from Japan. On June 8 during the Fuji firepower exercises, Japan demonstrated components of its counter-strike capability for the first time, test-firing the Type 12 SSM, coastal defense missile system. Japan plans to deploy these long-range coastal defense launcher vehicles at Hokkaido and Kyushu, its southernmost island. China has perceived the same as Japan, making a clear break from pacifism to acquire first-strike capabilities in the name of counter-strike capabilities. Understanding what comes next involves first taking stock of some unique factors that contribute to threat perception in the East Asian context. Threat perception has dominantly been understood as a function of perceived capabilities multiplied by perceived intent. However, the security dynamics in the East Asian context are often not so black and white. While primarily informed by centuries-old experiences of contestation, conflict and cooperation, Sino-Japan relations in the post-Second World War era have largely been peaceful, albeit uneasy. Their mutual perception of threat is rendered complex by the priorities dictated by the United States, an ally to Japan and a strategic competitor to China. This causes both countries to attach certain levels of symbolism to actions and events. Further complicating matters is the deliberately ambiguous language often used by both China and Japan in communicating goals and their underlying intent. In this regard, a lack of proper information on intent causes both countries to view each other's strategic ambitions as detrimental to their long-term interests. Broad skepticism aside, underlying the stable Sino-Japan dynamic for decades had been Japan's staunch adherence to its pacifist constitution. In nominal terms, China had nearly no threat perception from a country whose constitution outrightly bans its right to wage war and imposes strict limitations on possessing capabilities that amount to war potential. The uneasy yet peaceful dynamic was also aided by close economic relations. However, the scenario transformed following the 1996 Taiwan Strait crisis, as both countries started to implement a progressive military buildup. The announcement of the U.S. Asia-Pacific rebalancing strategy in 2011, with Japan being a key linchpin state, also indirectly pulled Tokyo into a competition with China. Tensions erupted over the Senkaku/Diaoyu Island dispute in 2012 and got worse after China's declaration of an air defense identification zone over the East China Sea in 2013. The islands have continued to be a source of contention in the bilateral relationship, with China frequently engaging in military activities in maritime and airspace in the area. More recently, Japan's announcement of the 2022 National Security Strategy, NSS, has added a new layer to Sino-Japan ties, laying the groundwork for Tokyo to implement a 5-year military buildup until 2027. The NSS lays down the counter-strike doctrine, marking a departure from an exclusively self-defense-oriented policy. The counter-strike doctrine creates a legal basis for the JSDF to engage in enemy-based strikes to address imminent threats. Simultaneously, Japan also announced its intent to raise its military spending to 2% of its GDP. The subsequent period has witnessed an emboldened Japan, one keen on projecting its military might to deter China. In a first-of-its-kind incident in September 2024, Japanese destroyer JS Sazanami sailed through the Taiwan Strait as a stern response to Chinese aggression in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. In February 2025, the destroyer JS Akizuki once again traversed these waters as Japan reasserted its freedom of navigation. Both instances invoked strong protests from Beijing. The two Asian powers are pushing deeper into a complex kind of security dilemma amid unpredictability around an unconventional U.S. leadership. The increasing friction between the two is a manifestation of them preparing for a fallout of a sudden shift in U.S. foreign policy. As Japan seeks to strengthen its own military power and prove itself to be an indispensable ally to the United States, the delicate balance of power in East Asia is primed to collapse. The subsequent period has witnessed an emboldened Japan, one keen on projecting its military might to deter China. In a first-of-its-kind incident in September 2024, Japanese destroyer JS Sazanami sailed through the Taiwan Strait as a stern response to Chinese aggression in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. In February 2025, the destroyer JS Akizuki once again traversed these waters as Japan reasserted its freedom of navigation. Both instances invoked strong protests from Beijing. The two Asian powers are pushing deeper into a complex kind of security dilemma amid unpredictability around an unconventional U.S. leadership. The increasing friction between the two is a manifestation of them preparing for a fallout of a sudden shift in U.S. foreign policy. As Japan seeks to strengthen its own military power and prove itself to be an indispensable ally to the United States, the delicate balance of power in East Asia is primed to collapse.